Controlling blood pressure the natural way. Is it always necessary to use a prescription medication? That's been a question forever. Number one reason for doctor visits, well, the number one diagnosis that comes out of a doctor visit is typically hypertension, the silent killer. It's still the number one killer in this country with cardiovascular disease. And it's silent most of the times. But can we do something very naturally? Well, the American Heart Association, which has typically been on the forefront of telling us what medications we need, came out with an article this morning, and another article that came out of the University of New South Wales that talks about 2 ways that can effectively help with blood pressure control. So I wanted to share those with you today so that if you are on a medication, please take this as you need to with a grain of salt. Don't stop any medications without consulting with your physician. But if you want to accentuate your control and make those medications work better, listen up. Flavonoid-rich foods, including berries, apples, pears, and wine. Berries, apples, pears, and wine appear to have a positive effect on blood pressure levels, an association that is partially explained by the characteristics of the gut microbiome, according to new research published today in the Journal of Hypertension, American Heart Association. Our gut microbiome plays a key role in metabolizing flavonoids to enhance their cardioprotective effects. So, takeaway message, enough good bacteria in the gut helps the body to metabolize you eating berries, apples, pears, and wine and getting a cardioprotective effect. Now, if you don't do that and you just go out and have that glass of wine every day as your doctor told you, you're probably not going to get the full effect. This study provides evidence to suggest that those blood pressure lowering effects are achievable with simple changes to the daily diet, said lead investigator Aidan Cassidy. Flavonoids are a compound naturally found in fruits, vegetables, and plant-based foods such as tea, chocolate, and wine. And my wife smiled as she heard the word chocolate. Yes, chocolate can help to control your blood pressure. Been shown in previous research to offer a variety of health benefits to the body. Flavonoids are broken down by the body's gut microbiome. So if you want chocolate and dark chocolate to be good for you, you must be on a good quality probiotic. Again, the gut microbiome, the bacteria found in the digestive tract. Recent studies found a link between the gut microbiome, the microorganisms in the human digestive tract, and cardiovascular disease, which is the leading cause of death worldwide. Gut microbiota is highly variable between individuals, and there's reported differences in gut microbial compositions among people with or without cardiovascular disease. With increased research suggesting flavonoids may reduce heart disease risk, this study assessed the role of the gut microbiome on the process. So it's not just what you eat, it's how your body processes it. Researchers examined the association between eating flavonoid-rich foods with blood pressure and gut microbiome diversity. The study also investigated how much variance within the gut microbiome could explain the association between the intake of flavonoid-rich foods and blood pressure. A group of, here's how it went, 904 adults aged 25 to 82, 57% male, were recruited in this study. The participants' intake of flavonoid-rich foods during the previous year was calculated from a self-reported food questionnaire detailing the frequency and quantity eaten of 112 different foods. Flavonoid values were assigned to foods according to the United States Department of Agricultural data on flavonoid content in foods, which is probably not accurate. Gut microbiome for participants was assessed by a stool analysis. We've been talking about that forever. Looking at bacterial DNA extracted from stool samples. After an overnight fast, participants' blood pressure levels were measured 3 times in 3-minute intervals after an initial 5-minute rest period. Researchers also collected participants' lifestyle information, including sex, age, smoking status, medication use, and physical activity, as well as the family history of coronary artery disease. The number of daily calories and fiber consumed, and each participant's height and weight was measured to calculate BMI, body mass index. Pretty intense study, I'd say. The analysis of regular flavonoid intake with gut microbiome and blood pressure levels found this. Number one, Study participants who had the highest intake of flavonoid-rich foods, including berries, red wine, apples, and pears, had lower systolic blood pressure levels. That's that top number, which sometimes is very difficult to control, as well as greater diversity in their gut microbiota than the participants who consumed the lowest levels of flavonoid-rich foods. So not only, we're not talking about taking a probiotic, we're just saying that those that typically would consume more berries, red wine, apples, and pears had a better gut health. Number two, up to 15.2% of the association between flavonoid-rich foods and systolic blood pressure could be explained by the diversity of the participants' gut microbiome. 85% foods, 15% by the amount of probiotic taken. Number three, eating 1.6 servings of berries per day was associated with an average reduction in systolic blood pressure levels by 4.1 millimeters of mercury. About 12% of the association was explained by the gut microbiome factors. Drinking 2.8 glasses of wine per week, a day, per week was associated with an average 3.7 millimeter lower systolic blood pressure. 3.7, 4.1, 7.8. By just eating certain things and drinking some wine, that combined for almost a 27% decrease in blood pressure levels. Our findings indicate future trials look at participants according to metabolic profile. The study suggests potential benefits of consuming red wine. The authors note the participants in the study were from the general population, and the participants were unaware of the hypothesis being studied. Part two. So it's what you eat, when you eat it, do you have enough good bacteria growing in your colon? Part number three. God built you to move. When was the last time you had your blood pressure checked? High blood pressure affects 1.13 billion people around the globe, accounted for 10.8 million deaths. Sort of smokes COVID, doesn't it? Worldwide, it's the leading risk factor for mortality. More than a third of the Australian population over the age of 18 has high blood pressure. 33% of the entire population of Australia. 50% of Australians don't even realize they have it. As high blood pressure puts you at a high risk of having a heart attack or stroke, it's important to keep track of your blood pressure. People over the age of 18 are advised to have a blood pressure check at least every 2 years. Given the impact of this global health challenge, there's a clear need for strategies. What is isometric resistance training? That's what came to the top of the list. Isometric resistance training is a type of strength training. During this, the muscles produce force, but do not change length. For example, pushing against a wall. Remember this was popular back in the 80s. Pushing up against a wall or holding a plank, if you're doing yoga. This is different to more traditional strength training like a squat or a push-up where the muscles shorten and lengthen. Currently, this type of strength training, isometric resistance training, is not recommended by several international guidelines for the management of blood pressure. It was mostly due to concerns over its safety because of the static nature of this causes blood pressure to increase markedly during an exercise, particularly if performed using large muscle groups. However, lead authors of the study, Harrison Hansford and Dr. Matthew Jones, both accredited exercise physiologists at the School of Health Sciences, said their research is safe to do. Dr. Jones said it's very accessible, doesn't require you going to the gym, it's easy to perform. He highlighted how exciting it was to know such a simple intervention can have a strong effect on reducing blood pressure, the leading factor for mortality globally. 12 minutes a day, 2 to 3 days per week, can produce significant drops in blood pressure. There's clear need for large, high-quality trials to, again, bear this out. Isometric resistance training safely reduces high blood pressure. The combination of that, the food choices, and probiotics could reduce your total load of blood pressure by up to 25%. It could take you from being on a prescription medication to not needing it, from being at a high risk factor to not needing it. So, again, if you have questions about this, call our office at 678-228-8900, 678-228-8900, Our website is thenutritionshop, shoppe.net. Anything you need, give us a buzz, set up your own personal time, and we can discuss that with you. God bless you, folks. Please share this with others and like us on Facebook and YouTube, and we'll see you back here soon. Take care.